Hey there, team! This video is part of a series of lore recaps focused on the Warcraft universe. This expansion is going to be dealing with something a little new to the series: time travel and alternate dimensions. Get ready, as we're about to go over some familiar faces, relive some old memories, and face off against ancient enemies. Now, I can't cover every little detail that happens in this expansion, otherwise we'll be here till World of Warcraft 2 gets announced. So be warned that I will not be covering everything that happens, but rest assured that this will be all the lore you need to know moving forward. Now then, prepare to storm the portal, save the Draenor, and challenge time itself as we tackle World of Warcraft's 5th expansion, Warlords of Draenor. Azeroth has been going through some heavy stuff lately. The Lich King assaulted the planet with an undead army that required the forces of the world to band together to stop him, which they were able to do, but with some heavy losses. And within months of that victory, fear and division would spread once again between the Horde and Alliance, starting up another war between them, all while Deathwing the Destroyer caused a cataclysm that shattered the planet permanently. And while neutral forces defended Azeroth from Deathwing and stopped the cataclysm, the war between the Horde and Alliance continued on, eventually leading the two armies to collide into the roaming continent of Pandaria. While fighting over resources in Pandaria, Garrosh Hellscream, then war chief of the Horde, began searching the new land for powerful weapons to use in his conquest of Azeroth. Garrosh had been leading the Horde in their most recent war against the Alliance, dropping a bomb on Theramore, awakening an old god, ripping up a continent, and slaughtering hundreds of Pandarians, all in the name of his vision for what a true Horde should be. Because of his actions, several leaders of the Horde and Alliance rose up against Garrosh, and Vol'jin, chieftain of the Darkspear Trolls, led a rebellion into the halls of Orgrimmar and defeated Hellscream. All of this led to the Pandaren imprisoning Garrosh and taking him back to Pandaria to face trial for his crimes. So, the Pandaren held a literal trial for Garrosh Hellscream at the Temple of the White Tiger in Kun-Lai's summit, and all the leaders of the Horde and Alliance were present for it. Bronze dragons assisted in the trial by using a device they called the Vision of Time, which allowed the court to see specific events from the past. The creator of this tool, the dragon Kairos Dormu, was also one of the bronze dragons that was at the trial. Unbeknownst to anyone, though, Kairos was allied with Wrathion, the Black Prince. The two had agreed that the demon army, the Burning Legion, would return to Azeroth for a third invasion, and that the forces of the planet were woefully unprepared for him. Wrathion had come up with a plan to acquire a brand new army that would aid the Horde and Alliance with their inevitable battle against the demons. And to achieve that army, Garrosh Hellscream needed to be set free. The Black Prince recruited Warlord Zayla and those who remained loyal to Garrosh and led them to Kun-Lai's summit, where the loyalists would wait for the opportune moment to strike. Meanwhile, Kairos had been tinkering with the Vision of Time in order to make it actually transport people through time itself. In the middle of the trial, the dragons struck. Warlord Zayla and her allies distracted the Pandaren forces, while Kairos had summoned the Infinite Dragonflight to deal with the faction leaders and heroes. In the commotion, Kairos Dormu was able to teleport himself and Garrosh Hellscream out of the temple and send them back 35 years into the past on the planet Draenor. It was shortly after the escape that Kairos revealed Wrathion's plan to Hellscream. Garrosh would stop the orcs from drinking the demon blood like they did in the Prime timeline, and instead rally the Horde of this Draenor into an army ready and willing to fight off the Burning Legion in the Prime timeline. Garrosh, however, didn't like the end goal of the dragon's plan, and so he murdered Kairos while he was still in mortal form and took what little remained of the Vision of Time with him. Garrosh traveled to the home of the Warsong clan. There he met with his father, Garrosh Hellscream. The time-traveling orc used the Vision of Time to show his father the future of the orcs, and where the demons and the eventual war with the humans of Azeroth would lead. Garrosh also made sure to stop the visions right before Thrall entered orcish history. Garrosh was convinced that the time traveler was telling the truth, and so Garrosh had earned the trust of the Warsong chieftain, and when the time came, the time traveler would alter the path of the orcish horde forever. Garrosh was able to share not only the future he experienced with the Warsong clan, but also share some of the weapons he had used while war chief of the Horde on Azeroth. Iron Star catapults and advanced weaponry. While setting all of this up, Garrosh Hellscream was invited to a meeting with Gul'dan, the Warlock. The Warsong, knowing of Gul'dan's intended deceit, sent Garrosh in their chieftain's place. These two met, and the time traveler warned the Warlock that things would be playing out differently than what Gul'dan had intended. Only a few days later, the Horde was called on by Gul'dan to drink the blood of Manaroth, and Garrosh Hellscream rose to be the first one to drink, as he had done in the Prime timeline. Except this time, Hellscream rejected the blood, causing Manaroth to come out of the shadows and attempt to force the orcs to submit. But Grom, Garrosh, and a battalion of orcs and Iron Stars were able to slay the Pit Lord, changing this timeline's history completely. The new horde that formed on Draenor was called the Iron Horde, and the Iron Horde had begun constructing their own dark portal. But instead of attacking the Azeroth of their own timeline, they were going to assault the Azeroth of the Prime timeline, 35 years into the future. Once the Dark Portal was finished and the Iron Horde was rallied together, a vanguard called the Iron March charged through and quickly took control of Netherguard Keep in the Blasted Lands. Garrosh had also made contact with Warlord Zayla and her loyal Dragonmaw orcs, instructing them to take over Blackrock's Spire, and have it serve as an outpost for the Iron Horde's invasion. Garrosh then recruited the Black Fuse Goblins, who had allied with him back when he was War Chief of the True Horde. The Black Fuse Company once again swore allegiance to the former War Chief and the fortunes he promised them. The Time Traveler then retreated through the Dark Portal back to his Draenor along with some of his new allies. With this new invasion of the Iron Horde, the forces of Azeroth united once again to not only push the Iron March vanguard out of Azeroth, but also to venture into the Draenor of the past, and to stop the Iron Horde altogether. The Kirin Tor Archmage Khadgar volunteered to fight off the Iron March, and once again, enter the Dark Portal. An elite squad of both Alliance and Horde champions, including Vindicator Maraud, Lady Liadrin, and the former War Chief Thrall, followed Khadgar through the portal to the Alternate Draenor. This Dark Portal was being powered by the three most powerful warlocks on that world, Cho'Gall, Tanaan Jungle, and Gul'dan. In order to shut down the portal, the Azerothian heroes freed the Shadow Council warlocks, and they blew up the Dark Portal, stranding the Iron Horde on Draenor for a time. As the heroes began to escape the forces of the Iron Horde, its warlords began to show up, all former Horde leaders and champions in the Prime timeline. And in charge of them all was Garrosh Hellscream, War Chief of the Iron Horde. The Azerothian heroes were able to free a few Draenei and Frostwolf orcs, both factions that refused to join the armies of Hellscream. As the Iron Horde closed in around them, they split up, with Thrall and his Horde warriors escaping with the Frostwolves, and Maraud and his Alliance champions escaping with the Draenei. When the Iron Horde began its formation, they required laborers to mine and work to fuel their war machine, and many Draenei were captured and forced to work as slaves for the orcs. Yrel, an apprentice of Prophet Valen, was one of those Draenei. She was also one of the many Draenei freed by the Azerothian heroes in Tanaan Jungle, and she, along with Maraud, was able to steal a ship from the Iron Horde and sail it to the Draenei lands of Shadowmoon Valley, along with the other freed Draenei and Alliance champions. This timeline's Velen accepted the aid of the Alliance and instructed Yrel to guide the Alliance in aiding the Draenor against the Iron Horde. The Shadowmoon clan of orcs, led by Ner'zhul, had begun embracing the dark powers of the Void, and Ner'zhul prepared to unleash a massive assault on the Draenor's capital of Karabor, as well as summon the powerful Void creature, the Dark Star, in order to wipe out the Draenor in Shadowmoon Valley for good. To pull off the summoning of the Dark Star, the Warlord needed sacrifices, and so he captured several Draenor in Shadowmoon, including Yrel's sister, Samara. Yrel was charged with leading Rengari forces to stop Ner'zhul and rescue the captives. However, her attempt failed, and she was all that was left of her Rengari. By the time she reached Ner'zhul, he had acquired all he needed to summon the Void creature and left, leaving what was left of Samara to die in the arms of her sister. Returning to Velen with this news, the Prophet had decided that he, Murad, and Yrel would go after Ner'zhul to stop the Dark Star, while the remaining Draenor forces guarded Karabor from the Iron Horde assaulting their walls. The Orc Warlord was able to successfully summon the Dark Star. However, Velen passed his mark onto his apprentice before sacrificing himself to purify the Void God, returning it back to a being of pure light, the Naru Kara. Ner'zhul had fled, but Karabor was still under siege, so Yrel and Murad took Kara back to the temple with them. The three were able to assist the other Draenor in pushing the Iron Horde back, turning the tide so drastically that the orcs were pushed completely out of Shadowmoon Valley, all save for Ner'zhul and what dark shamans had remained with him, and they had all hidden away in the Shadowmoon burial grounds. Murad and some of his Alliance allies stormed the burial grounds, killing the remaining members of the Shadowmoon clan, and finally, the Warlord himself. When the Iron Horde began its formation, they attempted to recruit all of the Orc clans and unite them under one banner. The Frostwolf clan of Frostfire Ridge, however, refused to join Garrosh Hellscream in his bloodthirsty conquest. The Frostwolves would face retaliation for their rejection, as Iron Horde forces began to mobilize against them. The chieftain of the Frostwolves, Garrosh, and his elder son Gnar had disappeared shortly after, but not before naming Garrosh's youngest son Durotan as heir of the Frostwolves. Without his father or brother to help him, Durotan led his clan in a resistance against the Iron Horde, and more specifically the Thunderlord clan, who were members of the Iron Horde who also resided in Frostfire Ridge. It was revealed that the warchief of the Thunderlords, the Iron Wolf, had captured both Garrosh and Gnar, and had slain the Frostwolf chieftain, and sent his son as a prisoner to slave away in Tanaan Jungle. Gnar and several other Frostwolf prisoners were rescued by Thrall and the Azerothian champions when they breached the Dark Portal, and Gnar, along with Drekthar, Farseer of the Frostwolf clan, led Thrall and his Horde allies to Frostfire Ridge to meet up with Durotan. Thrall and the Horde aided Durotan and the Frostwolves by removing the nearby ogre threats and occupying the ogre's fortress for the Frostwolf clan. Afterwards, the Frostwolves led an assault against the Thunderlord clan. They beat back the forces of the Iron Wolf, ending in a confrontation with that warlord himself. The Iron Wolf revealed himself to be Durotan and Gnar's older brother, but it didn't matter. The Frostwolf brothers slayed the Thunderlord regardless of the blood that they shared. The Iron Horde, though, continued to push its way into Frostfire Ridge, even with what happened to the Thunderlords. The mountain pass that the Iron Horde was taking into Frostwolf lands was destroyed by Drekthar, but many Frostwolves died buying time for the Farseer, including Gnar. Indebted to the Horde and fueled by revenge, Durotan joined Thrall in the offensive against Garrosh Hellscream and his Iron Horde, and they began to make their way to Talador to join up with the Draenor in the Alliance. Khadgar, alongside the combined forces of the Frostwolves and Draenor, began to fight their way through the Iron forces that were invading the lands of Talador. At the heart of Talador was the city Shattrath, and it was there that Murad had failed to save so many lives in the Prime timeline, but he vowed not to let the city fall this time around. The orc warlord Blackhand, chieftain of the Blackrock clan, had begun a siege on the Draenor city. Alongside him was his right hand and Durotan's former best friend, Orgrim Doomhammer. The Blackrock orcs and the Iron Horde started to waylay to the fringes of the city, but the Azerothian champions and their allies were able to hold strong. Durotan confronted Doomhammer face to face, and was able to convince his old friend to leave the Iron Horde and to side with the Frostwolves. Together, the allied forces destroyed several Iron Horde siege engines, and sank most of the invaders' fleet, but the last ship standing was Blackhand's. Murad, Durotan, Yrel, and Doomhammer fought their way to Blackhand's ship and attacked the warlord, all while Khadgar stole an Iron Star and prepared to sink Blackhand's boat. The Blackrock chieftain easily killed Orgrim and set off an explosion that severely injured Durotan and mortally wounded Murad, who used the last of his strength to place a barrier around Yrel, protecting her.
Murad, how?
In the light, we are one.
I see now. You never belonged with us, Durotan. Our bond is iron. But you are so easily broken. What do you want, little girl?
Your head.
Cannon is in position! On your command. Prepare to fire.
Such arrogance to believe that you alone could defeat me.
Together.
Wait! They're alive! I've got them.
You will all die!
Just you.
Throughout this journey, Khadgar and his bodyguard, the Warden Cordana Felsong, were hunting Gul'dan, who had escaped during the Battle of the Dark Portal. While the Iron Horde was the main threat that needed to be dealt with, Gul'dan was too dangerous to be left alone, and so the Archmage began keeping tabs on him. Gul'dan and his Shadow Council were bent on controlling the Iron Horde and having the orcs drink the demon blood, but the Shadow Council needed more power before they could waltz in and seize control of Gromash's horde. Gul'dan and his top two lieutenants split up, hunting for other forms of power. Cho'Gall headed to Nagrand to absorb void energy, only to be captured by the ogres of Highmaul. Taran Gor went to the Draenor mausoleum city of Auchendoun to harvest the souls of the dead. There, he was ultimately defeated by Lady Liadran and her Bloodsworn, alongside Auchenai protectors, and Gul'dan began to play a game of cat and mouse with Khadgar, including sending a mind-controlled assassin, Garona Half-Orcan, to kill the Archmage. And so the Warlock and the Wizard began hunting and tricking one another, until finally Khadgar was able to capture Garona and free her from the spell controlling her. The would-be assassin decides to aid the Heroes of Azeroth, which began to turn the tides in their favor. Thrall and Yrel began to rally their forces to go into Nagrand, home of the Warsong clan, Gromash's clan. Yrel and the Draenor attacked the lands from the south, and Durotan and the Frostwolves attacked from the north. Thrall and his Azerothian champions attacked directly from the east. The allied forces beat back the Warsong until the only real threat remaining in Nagrand was the Warsong's stronghold of Gramashar. There they led a siege on the base, finally breaking in and defeating all of the defenders save one. The commander of the Warsong and last defender of Gramashar, Garrosh Hellscream. Thrall challenged Garrosh to Mak-Gorah, and the two duked it out until Thrall ultimately killed the former war chief. The Iron Horde was being pushed back, thanks to the Frostwolves and Draenor alongside the champions of Azeroth. The allied forces had defeated the Thunderlords and the Iron Wolf in Frostfire Ridge. They had pushed back the Shadowmoon clan and killed Ner'zhul in Shadowmoon Valley. They had defeated the Warsong and Nagrand, as well as killed the Iron Horde's ogre allies in Heimal, which resulted in the deaths of not only Cho'Gall, but the warlord Kargath Bladefist. And in the northern lands of Gorgrond, the weapons manufacturing Blackrock Foundry was assaulted by Heroes of Azeroth, and Blackhand was slain inside his own fortress, leaving only Warlord Kilrog Deadeye and War Chief Garrosh Hellscream left, both of whom had withdrawn the Iron Horde to Tanaan Jungle, where they were preparing their final stand. Thanks to Garona's knowledge of the Shadow Council, she was able to secure a way inside Tanaan Jungle, which opened up a path for invasion by the allied forces. She also led Khadgar in secret to a meeting that was going down between Garrosh Hellscream and Gul'dan. It was there that Gul'dan defeated Garrosh and imprisoned him, and convinced the Iron Horde to finally drink the demon blood and to follow the will of the Shadow Council. And Kilrog Deadeye, along with the remaining members of the Iron Horde, drank the blood and swore loyalty to Gul'dan. Gul'dan had taken over Garrosh's former seat of power in the heart of Tanaan Jungle, the Hellfire Citadel. There the Warlock began working on rebuilding the Dark Portal. He had also summoned Taran Gorfin from the bowels of Auchendoun, where the defeated orc had gorged himself on the souls of dead Draenor to such an extent that he had transformed into a monstrous demon. But Gul'dan also had one more trick to pull. See, Gul'dan had used an item called the Orb of Dominion to control Garona Halfworkin's mind. And while Khadgar was able to retrieve the orb and stop it from affecting the assassin, he didn't personally destroy it. Instead, the wizard entrusted the task to Cordana Felsong, and unfortunately, Cordana did not destroy the Orb of Dominion, and because she didn't, Gul'dan was able to use the orb to slowly corrupt the mind of the Night Elf Warden, turning her into a servant of the Burning Legion. The Frostwolf and Draenor forces began to muster inside Tanaan Jungle. Their invasion successfully pushed back the demon-fueled Iron Horde to Hellfire Citadel. Finally, Khadgar led the assault team of heroes, Yrel, Durotan, and their followers, into the fortress Citadel. They blazed through several of the Citadel's levels and even killed the corrupted Kilrog Deadeye, finally arriving at a plateau where Garrosh Hellscream was being tortured by one of Gul'dan's demons. They killed the demon and armed the fallen warchief of the Iron Horde, and the heroes pressed on. They confronted Gul'dan, but he was able to escape to the Dark Portal, which was now completed. Khadgar teleported the champions to the Warlock, only to be confronted by the left hand of the Burning Legion, Archimonde. The champions of Draenor and Azeroth fought hard against the Demon Lord, and they were finally able to bring him down. With Archimonde's dying breath, he sent Gul'dan through the Dark Portal into modern-day Azeroth, reminding the Warlock that he had made a pact. The races of Draenor celebrated their victory and promised peace with each other from here on in. The champions of Azeroth, content that the threat of the Iron Horde had been stopped, said their farewells and ventured back to their own timeline, thanks to Khadgar's magic. However, there was no victory celebration when they returned home. While the Iron Horde was stopped, Gul'dan was now alive and roaming around in their world, and the Warlock was a danger they could not ignore. And that about does it. I've skipped some things here and changed some things there, but all in all, this was all the lore you needed to know about World of Warcraft Warlords of Draenor. This is a pretty infamous expansion, but hopefully you enjoyed the story of it all the same. For many, it was cool to see the old orc characters from the olden days of Warcraft back in action, even if some of them got a shorter end of the stick than others. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, thank you for watching, have a good one, and take it easy. Hey there team, real quick, thank you so much for watching the video. Sorry it was a little bit late, I had some stuff come up in December, and then in January I got sick, and then I got injured, and then I have to have surgery. And then also, while that happened, my WoW model viewer crashed and stopped working. My editing software got corrupted, and I had to go get download some new software and remake the entire video. So it's a little bit rushed, but hopefully you guys still liked it. Anyway, I wanted to do a quick promotion that I just released a Patreon account, and now I appreciate you guys liking, commenting, and subscribing. That's great. If you want to do a little bit more, you don't have to feel obligated for it. You can donate $1, $5, or $10 to the Patreon. It really would help me out in showing your support. Your rewards are name in the credits, verbal shoutouts, and getting your own card, kind of like these ones that can show up at the end. You also get to vote on some future content because I'm going to run out of World of Warcraft expansions to cover. If you're interested, feel free to check it out. If you want to support the channel, feel free to donate. If you want to support the channel but you don't want to spend any money doing it, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. All that stuff really helps, and actually hitting the bell notification for some reason boosts you in the YouTube algorithm, so doing that also really helps. But you know, I don't want to pressure anybody into doing anything they don't want to do. Again, thank you so much for watching. Have a good one and take it easy.